Today we're gonna learn how to do the U-twist, which is an energy beam twist that looks like this. The only trick you need to know how to do first is the normal energy beam. If you don't know how to do this trick, you can click in the top right to watch that video first, but let's get started. Now the U-twist is a variation on the normal energy beam, where instead of just going back and forth, we're sort of making a circular path for the Slinky to follow. And we do this by slightly adjusting the pulls that we make. Rather than just doing a normal pull back and forth, we add a little bit extra to it. And the U-twist is the easiest twist to learn how to do. There's also the V-twist, the M-twist, and the S-twist. And let me know in the comments which one of those you want to see a video on first. Now before I show you how to do this trick, I want to first show you what this trick is not. Now, when I first got started, I was doing something that kind of looks like this, where both of my hands are sort of making the shape at the same time and it's going around. It kind of looks like the U-twist, but it's not what we want. Because essentially what's happening is the whole Slinky is moving as one. What we really want to do is have them move independently of each other. It looks a lot cooler that way. So I'm gonna be doing it from my point of view, where the Slinky's sort of going clockwise in a circle. And if you wanna learn it counterclockwise, basically do everything I say and reverse it. So clockwise, it looks like this, and counterclockwise, it looks like this. Now when we're doing the normal energy beam, we're just going back and forth with the Slinky. So if you imagine sort of the tension on the Slinky, it's just going left and right. But when we do a twist, we pull at a slightly different angle, which causes the Slinky to go in one direction. And the Slinky wants to keep going in that direction and complete the shape that it was making. So when we go up and around, it's gonna want to naturally keep going that direction. To show this, I'm gonna make the upper shape of the U-twist, and I'm not even gonna pull with the other hand and see what happens. So you'll notice once I make the shape, the Slinky will want to keep going in that direction, and all we need to do now is to kind of harness that and then go with the Slinky to make it make the full shape rather than just sort of the half shape. So before we were just doing sort of the down and away pulls like this, but now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a little bit extra. So with one hand, we're gonna be making a turning motion sort of like this, and with the other hand, we're kind of gonna be doing the opposite motion like this. So we're gonna break this down by starting with the upper portion and then working on the lower portion. So first what we're gonna do is hold the Slinky sort of in a closed position how you normally would and make that top rainbow shape. So we're gonna pretty much draw out what we want the U-twist to look like. Just like that. But what we actually don't wanna do is let all of the coils bang against this hand and then kind of flatten out. You'll notice that if we just do it like this, it'll sort of flatten out. But what we actually wanna do is once we do this pull, we sort of wanna let the Slinky coils sort of flow through by turning our wrists just a tiny bit, like that. So we don't wanna end up with it down. We wanna do the pull and then sort of let it flow. And when we do that, it makes that bottom U shape that we wanna get. So do the pull, but then sort of twist your wrist to let the Slinky flow through. So pull, rotate, pull, rotate. And you'll kind of start to see that U-twist make its shape. So once you feel comfortable doing this sort of from a closed position, what we're gonna try to do is do it from the energy beam. So go back and forth to the energy beam, and once you do the pull with the opposite hand that we're gonna make the shape with, once you do the pull, we're gonna sort of follow it with that hand, make the U shape like we were before, and then go right back into the energy beam. So energy beam, pull, shape, and then back into the energy beam. Pull, shape, back into the energy beam, just like that. So what you'll notice is we have to make this full shape to get that upwards arc, but what we're gonna try to do is sort of limit that and make it a little bit smaller and make it more of a quick turn like this. So rather than going all the way here to make that shape, what we're gonna do is kind of go halfway, like that. And still focus on letting the coils kind of go through by turning your wrist a little bit to let them go through rather than just smacking on one side. So energy beam, rainbow shape, back to the energy beam. And then once you can do one, try to do two of them in a row. It might be a little weird looking at first, but then go right back in the energy beam and slowly kind of build that up to do a few more rounds. And if your wrists start to hurt at any point, make sure to take a long break, and if you come back and they still hurt, You can be done for the day, practice it another time. You definitely don't want to overdo this one. So work on this until it starts to feel comfortable and you can really go back and forth into the energy beam, into one round of the U-twist, back into the energy beam, and keep going. And what we really want to focus on is minimizing the movement that we're making. So rather than going all the way from here to here, we slowly are kind of doing the same thing, but just with a really quick flick of our wrist like this. Now it might feel a little weird at first and you don't want to go too far into this, but once it starts to kind of feel comfortable, you don't have to really think about this movement too much, we're going to add in the other hand. So the other hand is going to be doing the exact opposite of what we're doing with this hand. So instead of twisting it this way, we're actually going to be doing sort of the reverse, where we go down and then back. So it looks like this from your point of view, down and back. So one hand is doing this, and the other hand is doing this. And to learn this one, we're going to basically do the same thing, but in reverse. So we're going to start with the slinky a little bit open. It's not going to be closed because we're not making this shape. We're going to be making the opposite shape. And we're pretty much going to do the opposite. So we're going to go down and end up here. So start here, down and around, end up here. So it'll look something like this. So our goal when doing this is once we finish the pull, we should see it sort of reflected the other way. Now gravity is going to be against us here, so it's not going to be as dramatic as it was when it was going down, but we should hopefully start to see it going a little bit up. So you'll see when I do the pull, it's sort of reflected the other way. So now we're going to try to add it into the energy beam. So from the energy beam, put your hands close together, do that downwards pull, and go back into the energy beam. Now it might be a little weird at first, but we really want to slowly build it up just like that. Down and away, back in the energy beam. Down and away, back into the energy beam. So once it starts to feel a little comfortable, doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to feel a little bit more natural, we're going to try to put them together. So I would recommend starting with the slinky closed, doing the up pull, and then doing the down pull. So it would be up, down, and then going right back into the energy beam. Up, down, energy beam. Up, down, energy beam. And we really want to get that full circular shape. So up, down, energy beam, like that. And then with enough practice, we can go from the energy beam, up, down, back into the energy beam again. Up, down, and then what we're going to try to do is add more rounds. So up, down, just like that. Up, down, just like that. Slowly adding more and more rounds of the energy beam as long as it feels comfortable. You might find yourself eventually sort of doing this like I showed earlier. This is not what we want to do. We want to make sure energy beam, up, down, just like that. Up, down, up, down. And eventually we'll be making this shape continuously with one hand, and then the other hand will be doing this downward pull. And what you can also do is not even go into the energy beam and just try to do 2 rounds of it. So you can go up, down, and then you can kind of stop, up, down, stop, up, down, and then slowly kind of build that up. Now again, if your wrists start to hurt, take a break because this is definitely one that uses a lot of wrist action. If at any point you sort of start to feel lost or overwhelmed, just kind of go back to the basics, start working on the twists again, make sure to get this motion exactly right. And then work on the other hand as well. Now, once you learn the trick, you can kind of change it up a little bit. You can have your hands farther apart. You can then make bigger twists to make it a little bit higher and lower. You can also do it really just as a slight variation of the energy beam by doing a little bit less dramatic of twists. But really the main thing we're looking for is a really nice back and forth rhythm, just like with the energy beam. Notice how it goes back and forth. It's not really clunky, and we want it to keep going like that when we're doing the twists. And you can also learn this trick with a larger slinky. You just need to exaggerate the movements a little bit more. But since it is a little bit slower, I find it actually easier to learn. So you may want to learn with a larger slinky first and then go to your smaller slinkies after that. Now this trick might take you a bit longer to learn than the energy beam, but if you have any problems or any questions, you can always let me know in the comments down below and I'll try my best to help you out. And also let me know what videos you want to see in the future. I'm going to try to get around to doing all of the different energy beam twists, so let me know what you want to see first. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.